Hello and welcome to the Beat Cancer Answer, brought to you by BeatCancer.Org, the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. We believe that 90% of all cancers could be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone, and science agrees. Unfortunately, most people don't know it, so we provide the education that can help you prevent, cope with, and beat cancer through diet, lifestyle, and other immune-boosting approaches. On every podcast, we will feature an expert who can teach us how to become part of that 90% who could prevent getting diagnosed with cancer. If you already have cancer, we have empowering information for you too. Over the past 35 years, we have helped thousands of cancer patients get back into the driver's seat when it comes to their personal journey of healing cancer and preventing future reoccurrence. Listen now as BeatCancer.Org Educational Director Dr. Susan Silberstein interviews Dr. Millie Lytle about eating for meaning and about how custom-made nutrition programs can fill in the gaps of care left by most doctors.
This is Susan Silberstein, and I'm going to be interviewing today Dr. Millie Lytle, ND, MPH, and CNS. Millennia Ruth Lytle, officially, and affectionately known as Dr. Millie, is a licensed naturopathic doctor and certified nutrition specialist with a special interest in solving health puzzles naturally. She is a member of Tournesol Wellness Primary Care Team in New York City. She holds an undergraduate degree in women's health from the University of Toronto and a 4-year doctorate diploma from the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. In 2008, Dr. Millie received a scholarship from the Robert Bosch Foundation to study complementary and alternative research methodology, and then completed an international master's degree in public health in Hamburg, Germany. Dr. Millie is a published researcher, experienced radio host, and author. She's the founder of Eating for Meaning, a unique nutrition program to transform your relationship with food, which she teaches at the New York Open Center and abroad. She's a licensed naturopathic physician with the District of Columbia, a licensed nutrition specialist with the Board for Certification of Nutritional Specialists, and a member of the New York Association of Naturopathic Physicians. Dr. Millie is also the author of the Eating for Meaning workbook, the Eating for Meaning Guide to Detoxification, and the Food for Mood Diet, Eating for Your Brain, Not Your Stomach. She is co-creator of Naturopathic Doctors for Health Coaches and sits on the medical review board for Wildly Successful Health Coaches. Wow, quite a resume. Welcome, Dr. Millie.
Thank you so much, Dr. Silberstein.
Now, you have referred to your practice as filling in the gaps of care that one's doctor doesn't. And you do that with custom-made nutrition programs. So let's talk about some of your clinical specialties. For example, what exactly is naturopathy?
So naturopathy or naturopathic medicine is a distinct form of primary health care that emphasizes prevention, treatment, as well as improving health to an optimal point perspective. So we use all natural methods in order to help our patients and clients achieve optimal health, no matter where they are on the spectrum of their health journey.
Beautiful, and I have to add that naturopathic physicians are my favorite physicians. Okay, now let's add another modality. Let's talk about functional medicine. What is that?
Functional medicine is a branch of medicine that focuses on prevention using the philosophy that one's environment affects the state of health that they're in. And functional medicine relies on tools of measurement, so measuring blood and other body functions, to look at metabolites and levels that regular conventional medicine does not look at.
And I think we could say fairly that functional medicine practitioners can also help people with diagnosed disease in addition to just preventive care.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. Now, another modality that you are knowledgeable about is epigenetics, and we hear a lot about these days. So why don't you share with us what that means to you?
Epigenetics is a growing area of medical research and health research in general that discusses not only the presence of genes are responsible for our health, but in fact our genes can be modified based on their environment, so that our genes are responding to their environment, whether that's physical, emotional, chemical, stress levels, all the time, and that those genes are reacting in response to that level of stress or environmental stress, toxicity.
That's so important because, especially in my field, people are so concerned. I have the gene. Thank God I don't have the gene. And they're not aware that we can actually turn on genes or turn off genes. And we have good genes and bad genes, health promoting and health eroding genes. And we can do that through our lifestyle choices.
Absolutely, and we really spent the bulk of the last century just looking at the genome theory, which just looks at genetic variation in the double helix DNA, and we barely scratched the surface on what that means to a person's overall risk for illness and specifically how we can treat that. So the field of epigenetics is so exciting because it really offers us so much opportunity to look to see how the gene's functioning and how we can influence the gene in order to promote health or to recover from disease.
Yes,
and even to protect the next generation.
Absolutely.
So that we're not sentenced to what our parents had in the last generation.
I love it.
It also links what I love about epigenetics is that it links why lifestyle diseases are actually genetically linked. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at type 2 diabetes, if 2 generations ago there was no such thing, and now all of a sudden everybody in your family has it, it's a genetically linked condition. You're likely to pass it on to your children and your grandchildren, and all you have to do is change your lifestyle or change your mindset in order to recover from it. So it's just amazing.
It is amazing. I often say in my lectures, the most hereditary aspect of cancer is not your family history, it's your family dinner table.
That's right.
Now, something that's very connected, I believe, to epigenetics is nutrigenomics. So can you explain what that is and how that relates to epigenetics?
Yeah, so if we think about all the risk factors for cancer, if we think about smoking and diet and mindset and stress levels and the dinner table, then as the factors for what put us at risk for cancer, then we think about nutrigenomics as only the nutrients that are involved in affecting those genes. Mm-hmm. So there's certain specific nutrients that have, and foods, the nutrients come from foods, of course, that have been studied to have an effect on different areas of genetic expression, and that's the field of nutrigenomics.
Beautiful explanation. I love it. I'm already coming to see you, right? Any practitioner who's got all of this in his or her bag of tricks is someone that I'm very fond of. So you take all these little tools and you make them work for you in terms of bio-individual transformation. So let's put all that together and talk about what that means.
So at this point in clinical research and in our level of awareness and in the fact that we're all taking more responsibility for our health, the media is telling us every day that you have to advocate for your own health and your choice is this. And people want more choice when it comes to healthcare because, of course, when they go to the conventional medical system, there's not much. A lot of choice has been removed. And research is to a point where we say, oh, okay, we do have epigenetics. Our genes do change based on what our lifestyle is. And so bioindividuality is to do with the fact that each individual responds differently to different nutrients, to different environment. What's good for me is not necessarily good for my sister or good for my neighbor. And unfortunately, what I found with nutrition and the media is that we're just following trendy fads and diet after trendy fad, and each trendy fad is only responding to the diet that ruined our health 10 years before. And really the individual is what the most important common denominator is, that they have to look to see, okay, is this diet good for me? Is this the diet that's good for me? And so that's bioindividuality, and that we can test for those things more and more with genetic testing and with some lab work. and that we can understand our own responses to food in our environment, and how to, just on a more general level, understand whether or not food is serving us well or not. And the transformation part is that we can change ourselves. We don't have to be sentenced to how we led the first 30 or 40 or 50 years of our life. We can always become healthier no matter where we are right now. And there's always an aspect of health to build upon, no matter where you are in terms of diagnostics.
And that is so important for people to keep in mind. I've often talked about biochemical individuality, and as health educators, we teach fundamental basic principles. But I always tell patients that I'd be thrilled if they graduate from my lessons and they see a practitioner who can test for their biochemical individuality, because one size does not fit all, even though we still want everybody to be on a heavily plant-based diet. But
Exactly.
as you say, there's so many dietary fads,
and if I can just give an example of what this means in terms of chemical testing. So there's a gene that's changeable on individuals as to whether or not you're likely to be low in vitamin D or at a normal level of vitamin D. And so while public health may tell us, oh, you need 400 international units of vitamin D a day, whereas your medical doctor might tell you need 1,000 international units of vitamin D a day, your naturopathic doctor might tell you you need 5,000 international units of vitamin D a day. We can test for how likely you are to have a low level, and so therefore set you up in your own mind with, oh, I'm always going to have to supplement with vitamin D, for instance. And especially if you get a cancer diagnosis, it becomes even more important. So then we reassess where your vitamin D level is in terms of your level of health, because the vitamin D that's needed in order to maintain a healthy, disease-free life is lower than one that's needed in order to sustain a cancer patient.
Mm-hmm.
And this can also change throughout one's life. And some individuals actually do better at higher levels of normal in terms of vitamin D. So when they say, oh, your level should be above 30 or above 50, or your optimal level is 75 nanomoles of vitamin D in your blood, then some people actually do better at 150. All their other blood levels are better when their vitamin D is 150. So we look at all these different areas of your life and of your individuality in order to understand what's best for you and what the best recommendation is.
And that's wonderful and so important, because as you know, when a patient comes back with a blood test, my doctor said I'm normal. Well, no, you're average. But average may not be appropriate for you, and it may not be sufficient to really combat serious disease condition. So
and sufficiency is a very important word.
Yes.
Yeah, sufficiency is a very important word, because sufficiency is only a minimum level to maintain health. It's not enough to do anything to contribute towards your health if you're trying to get to a place of optimal wellness. And we really have to become aware of what these words mean. And then, because people tend to go from the understanding of sufficiency to toxicity. And, oh, I don't want to take too much because I don't want to become toxic. Well, what about the optimal range in between? And what about what it means for you as a person who's just been diagnosed with breast cancer to have higher than normal levels of vitamin D? So it's very important to consider all the factors that we know.
Mm-hmm. So all of these factors can work together, and they can both benefit those who would prevent diseases like cancer and also help those who have been diagnosed with cancer, correct?
Yes.
Right. And what's the percentage of patients that you work with in your practice who have had cancer?
I have about 10% of my practice is active cancer patients. And then there's another portion who have been diagnosed with precancerous states of some degree, so HPV, for instance, or a basal cell carcinoma. And then there's an even larger portion who have already had cancer and gone through treatment or are in remission from cancer. So I would say about 20% of my overall patient load.
That's wonderful. And do you have a couple of success stories you'd like to share with us?
I do. So, and getting healthy can come in at any stage in your point of view. So if you're trying to prevent cancer, then you can see a naturopathic doctor and become more aware of your health, or you just consume it on your own. Go to your organization, Susan, at BeatCancer.org. If you've been diagnosed, then you can see a qualified practitioner in order to understand what your options are in terms of including nutrients and how to change your lifestyle in a safe way if you are going through conventional treatment at the same time. And then, of course, after you've already been treated and if you've experienced radiation. So a couple of examples I saw. I'm seeing a woman in my practice now who had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and one of her sisters had passed away from breast cancer, and she was sick from radiation when she came in to see me, and she was extremely anxious, and she was depressed, and she was just upset about the whole diagnosis, and really didn't even want to say the word cancer, and was unwilling to really make big changes in her diet. And so for her, she was already cancer free by that time, but in 6 months that I'd seen her, she had been diagnosed with a suspicious mole, and she had to go back and also get a follow up. She was recommended to go back to Sloan Kettering and get a follow-up mammogram after the year from her original diagnosis. And so I supported and advocated for her health throughout this whole process. So even though she was cancer-free, she's still trying to improve her health. We're trying to vary her diet, trying to increase more the superfoods, trying to increase her levels of vitamin D because those were low when she came to see me, and help her detoxify from radiation. And so this is a whole post-treatment plus prevention strategy, given the fact that she has the genes to develop it again. And so that's one aspect, and she's extremely happy, and she's really thriving, and her mammogram was clear, and her suspicious mole was negative, and so we're just supporting her nutritionally along the way, and she's feeling so much better in terms of her level of mental health and her outlook, and just feels a lot more freedom. And so that's a person I love to work with because we can really improve their quality of life in so many ways. Another example is just recently. So 6 months ago, a woman came into my practice, and she had been diagnosed with a second stage endometrial cancer. And she's a very spiritual woman, and she did not want to do. She was worried about doing a hysterectomy. She really didn't want to do it. She was postmenopausal, and so she came to me, and so we because she was a fairly early stage, and her doctor had already told her it was not a very aggressive type of cancer, and we worked together to put together a proposal for her doctor that she have several months in order to wait and reevaluate in 4 to 6 months, and that's what the doctor agreed upon. And so we put her on a nutritional plan, and 4 months later, she did not have the cancer diagnosis anymore.
Wow.
So the endometrial cancer was all of a sudden an abnormal cell, but not a cancer cell. And so this is an example of curing cancer, but the way I look at it is that the cancer cells are remitting because the body's immune system is responding to the nutritional treatment that we're giving, and we're doing nutrigenomics. It's evidence-based, and we're working with her spirituality and her outlook. And she has a very toxic job. She works with, she's a social worker at a hospital in New Jersey, and she sees a lot of addicted babies as soon as they're born. And so that's really affecting her. And so we work with all these levels for people to help them in the recovery stage.
Well, that's great. And it's all about empowerment. So, if a patient wants to seize his or her power, then educators like myself and clinicians like yourself can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, tell me a little bit, or tell our listeners a little bit about your eating for meaning concept. I love that terminology, and your online course as well.
Okay, thank you. So Eating for Meaning started as my response to help. I felt like my patients were bombarded by nutritional information, and yet none of the information was really being directed at them as an individual. And so I tried to coalesce all the information that I thought was important for them that they could work through, and offer them principles to follow and exercises to become more mindful and more aware about their eating. And so I wrote the workbook. It includes 18 different self-help exercises to go through the steps of changing your relationship to food, making a personal transformation. And it's based on 4 principles. So that nutrition, whole foods nutrition, is the most important aspect of health and most important area of focus when we're thinking about changing our diet. So regardless of, the gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, yes, all important, but really what matters is that we include the nutrients that are healing for our bodies in our diet on a daily basis, and then so much falls away. Then we naturally reduce our risk factors. We naturally reduce our sugar
Yes,
cravings.
and that's such a good point, because when I ask patients, what do you eat? Well, I don't eat this and I don't eat that, and I gave that up, and I cut back on this. I know, but what do you eat? Well, I discontinued this and I'm gluten-free and I gave up that. And I know, but what do you eat? And so the fact that you focus on what you must include is so important.
Once you're starting focusing on eating your 7 to 10 servings of vegetables per day, then all of a sudden you don't have any sugar cravings. You're not going to the chips. You're not thinking about going 5. How long can I go without eating? Because I don't want to gain a pound. It's all of these really lack of common sense things. They're the results of how we're being conditioned to fear food. And that really concerns me, because we need food. Food is, if it's not like you need to quit cigarettes. It's no, you cannot quit food. You need to eat a lot of food in order to nourish your cells so that your cells are healing and buffering all the chemical processes that are going on and getting rid of the waste products in your body. We need it. So it's so important that we focus on nutrition. And then, so there's the nutrition aspect. There's adventure, because food is fun and love, and we need to enjoy it and cook and share it with others and include it in our community, in our lives. That's how we reconnect with ourselves, and that's how we bring food into the energetic process of our lives as well, because food is energy. I tell my patients, if you're tired after eating, then that's not the right food, because food is measured in units of calories. And what is calories? Calories is energy. If you're tired after you eat, then that's the wrong food for you. So we have to be mindful, which is the 3rd principle. We have to pay attention to what we're putting in our mouths, and not only think, oh, that food tastes good to me, I can't do without this food. No, think about, what is that food doing after it leaves your mouth, once it goes into your body? Is it helping your cells? Is it helping you fight your illnesses? Is it helping you recover from cancer? Is it helping your cells mutate properly? And so it's so important to be mindful of what our food is doing to us, and also where our food comes from. How's the cow treated if you're consuming animal products? Where's the vegetable growing? What's the soil like? Is this a genetic modified crop? So, which is only to gain money for a certain corporation. So we have to be thinking about, we do have to become activists in a way, because we can't possibly think that we're going to shop in the grocery store shelves, the regular supermarkets, and we're going to be able to, that food's going to do the things that it really needs to do to heal our bodies. And then epigenetics, of course, which is the most individualized approach, nutrigenomics, to eating, which is including all of these beautiful nutrients in our diet every day that can not only help us feel energized and lose weight. Everybody wants to, although if you're thin already as a cancer patient, you don't want to, but help nourish our cells so that it changes cell lines, so that our genes are not expressing towards illness. They're actually expressing towards health all of a sudden. And we're detoxifying better, and we're eliminating better, and we're producing better brain neurochemicals. People tell me, oh, I'm chemically imbalanced. That's because you're not eating your fruits and vegetables. That's where we get chemicals that help make our neurotransmitters. And so the nutrition, the adventure, the mindfulness, and the epigenetics, those are the concepts of eating for meaning. And I turned it into, the Open Center was impatient. They didn't want the year-long program, so I turned it into an 8-week program. And
that's an online program?
And so I taught it live, but now it's available at eatingformeaning.com. So it's available as it's a 16-hour course, but it's 8 downloadable audios with the PowerPoint and action steps and some homework, self-help exercises. We go through the Eating for Meaning workbook, and you do it at your own pace. And that's at eatingformeaning.com. And if you go to that website, then you can click in the upper right corner, and it will ask you if you want to download a free guide to organ detox.
Oh, and that's so important because we talk about what goes in our mouth, but we don't talk a lot about what we get rid of through our eliminatory organs. So I'm so glad you're offering that along with that.
Yes, and so that's a mini guide that with a recipe that talks about which flavors, which emotions are correlated with different emunctories, the organs of detox, and how we can go about in our lifestyle making sure that we're detoxing. I mean, our liver is detoxing every day anyway, but because we have such a chemical burden, and depending on what your health history is and where you live, if you live in the city, for instance, you're exposed to more chemicals, or if you're living near a nuclear plant or downline of a factory that empties into the water, for instance. So many people are exposed to more chemicals than their bodies are really getting rid of on a daily basis. Bowel movements are so important. Drinking water is so important. But there's a lot of other tips that I've included in the book to talk to you how to detoxify your lymph and your liver and your kidney and your skin and your colon. So I think you'll really enjoy it.
Thank you for doing that. That is so important. People think it's all about what you eat. God only gave us one mouth, but gave us 6 or 7 eliminatory organs. So clearly we know what we should know what's more important. You have a personal health goal, and I thought it would be cool to end this interview with you telling people what your personal goal is and how people maybe might wish to join you.
Absolutely. So I have a personal health goal of living healthily until I'm 120 years old. And I invite everybody to join me on this journey. And when I was forming this goal, I thought, if I fall short, that's okay. But I'm going to aim and strive to live till 120 healthily. And what it's based on it's a response to the short-sightedness that we get sick when we're 50 and that we die when we're 70, or that we get sick when we're 60 and die when we're 80. Because in the biblical texts and in the spiritual texts, living till 120 is a blessing, and I think that's a beautiful principle for how we should strive for 100% in our lives. We should strive for optimal health in our lives and get the most out of it as possible. And so I invite people to always be contributing to their health on a daily basis, whether you're trying to prevent cancer, whether you've already been diagnosed, or whether you're in treatment or in remission, or wherever, or just wanting to learn more for your family and friends, because we're so affected. And always do something every single day, and if possible, every single meal, do something that's beneficial for your health, no matter what else you're doing.
That is so important. I thank you for that recommendation, because people think, oh, well, my treatment's over, I'm fine, and now I can just do what I want. But the truth is, it is work to be well and to have high quality life. And we need to be diligent and vigilant about that if we want to live many healthy, happy years. So it is work. I'm conscious of it, but I would never make another choice. I would always be paying attention to every choice I make, and is that contributing to my health?
I agree with you completely.
Thank you so much for, I think you were a terrific Wikipedia today, giving us some wonderful definitions of some challenging terms. And then it's quite exciting to know that is how you work in your daily life for yourself and also on behalf of your patients. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Beat Cancer Answer. If you learned just one thing today about how to prevent, cope with, or beat cancer, then we have succeeded in our mission. For more information or assistance, visit our website at BeatCancer.Org. Remember to sign up for our educational email series and get your free gift. Join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, where you can meet others who think just like you. We appreciate all of your feedback and love your suggestions. Please also remember to rate us on iTunes. Your positive ratings help us to get discovered so we can save more lives. Thank you again for listening, and best wishes for good health from all of us at BeatCancer.Org.